Good evening. We are at the Warwick Economic Summit 2018. My name is Joanna, and I'm here with Professor Mahmoud Mohieldin, who is the World Bank Group Senior Vice President for the 2030 Development Agenda. Professor Mohieldin, it's an honor to be here with you today. Thank you for your speech.
Thank you so much for having me.
So I will move on to my first question, which is the following.
Yeah.
So reflecting on the first year of the Trump presidency, it becomes clear that certain of his policies undermine or even at times contradict the Sustainable Development Goals. Mm-hmm. Do you consider it a challenge to the implementation of the goals? And if yes, what are your suggestions on addressing it?
Very good question. And fortunately, at the World Bank, we are not really allowed or encouraged to comment on some particular countries' internal politics or choices. But if I'm taking it from kind of a global perspective, some individual countries and governments' approaches towards some sustainable development goals, like SDG 13 or Sustainable Development Goal number 13, which is about climate change, until this moment, because of the endorsement of the Paris Agreement and the climate action measures and the importance of investments in adaptation and mitigation by the private sector and the cities, the adherence to the agreement has been compromised. Meanwhile, there is some good progress in growth, in investment, and economic performance in the United States and Europe, as we have seen in the recent global economic prospects. And the impact of such investment and growth is good for these particular countries, and given their influence in the global economies and the global GDP, the impact as well on their trading partners in the country that they invest with had been very much favorable. So it's all about the progress towards these SDGs, which are not really about short-term matters, but basically about sustaining the courses in the investment in human capital, in infrastructure inclusive growth, and in resilience in order to achieve that. And we see very good progress, at least by the majority of countries, in adhering to the rules and complying with what's required as prerequisite for investments toward the SDGs.
Thank you. Now, extending my questions for the goals. Yeah. So when the Sustainable Development Goals first came out, many critics thought that they were too ambitious, with the Financial Times article calling them perhaps even naively idealistic. Mm-hmm. This adheres to a pattern of general distrust among people for the ability of the UN to truly change the world. How would you respond to these claims?
Right. Well, the SDGs, yes, they are ambitious from the perspective of some countries, like the low-income countries or countries that are suffering from fragility or being in conflict or being even in post-conflict. But here you are putting an aspirational goal for the whole world. So you cannot really take the critical minimum as your target. You need really to set the target high, like ending extreme poverty all over the world. And this is very much an achievable goal. If you see the good track record of reduction of the number of the poor around the world, especially the extremely poor, based on the records of the MDGs, the Millennium Development Goals, there had been great progress. The target then was halving the number of those who are living under the extreme poverty line threshold, which is equivalent to $1.90. Of course, this varies from a country to the other based on their standard of living. But that goal was achieved, and even it had been achieved 5 years before the target date, which was 2015. There are other goals which could be much more complicated, especially the ones that are emphasizing quality, like quality education or quality health. They require investment, training, infrastructure. But again, it's a good competition between the 193 member states of the United Nations to consider what they can do and where are they exactly in these areas of economic, social, and environmental consideration. So, and then You take them as a menu. It's like going to a supermarket. In some of these goals are going to be more relevant to some country than others. So if your country, for instance, like Chad, landlocked, matters related to the ocean is very important for the citizen of Chad as a member of this world, but he or she may have areas related to problems related to desertification, for instance, in their areas, or lack of water, or the problems related to climate, or the future of Lake Chad, much more seriously than matters related to the Blue Oceans Initiative, for instance. So you take this menu, and you'll have your own national policy and national priority designed based on them. If you can do better, well and good, but this is the critical minimum for any country to consider for the kind of future that we wish to have. And actually, this is not really a personal goal. All of the countries signed on these goals in September 2015. So they are transformed from just a document of an organization to a global agenda with interest to implement it at national and local levels.
Okay, thank you. Now, moving on to the topic of female empowerment.
Yes.
It has been at the forefront of world affairs this year.
Okay.
Do you believe that the UN is sufficiently addressing female underrepresentation and gender inequality? And if not, what steps are there to be made?
I was in a meeting 10 days ago at the UN, and the Secretary General of the UN, Mr. Guterres, when he started, he said that he is going to work for having half of the number of the leadership of the UN to be women. And he is progressing nicely. He is progressing nicely, and I think he will achieve this goal. This is not just important for the UN at the top, but that is going to cascade in a way to all levels of engagement. And the UN itself will be a role model for the member states, because there is no compromise of efficiency. You are not chosen just because you are a woman. You are efficient, you are competent, you are able to achieve, and you have a good track record. In addition to that, you happen to be a woman, and you happen sometimes to be as well from a country that is a developing country. So here, there are many good considerations about the implications of this kind of choice, and many countries are looking to the UN for aspiration. Again, in my own institution, the World Bank, you will be happy and very much interested to know that the leadership of our institution is very much now more equal than ever before. Our CEO is a woman. The head of MIGA is a woman. Most of the VPs responsible for the practices or the regions, the country directors, many of them are women. And there is a good base as well of good qualified women members of staff of the World Bank who will have the potential of being leaders very soon. So it's not just the choice today. That is a criteria that was used for almost 10 years, and the current president of the World Bank, Dr. Jim Kim, is taking this matter very seriously. And in addition to that, we have very important initiatives adopted by the World Bank because we have direct and indirect influence on our clients as well. So matters related to gender equality is very important. Issues related to inclusive growth and giving equal opportunities to women is in the forefront of our agenda. We have specific initiatives like the recent program WIFI. This is an initiative for women entrepreneurs of small and medium enterprises around the world. We have variety of work, and we have very strong leadership within a cross-cutting theme at the bank led by women on gender as well.
Thank you. And as the last question, my last question concerns some recent news. So during a recent interview, the World Bank's chief economist, Paul Romer, said that indicators for Chile may have been manipulated for political reasons to show a decline in the country's business conditions. And in response to that, Chile has accused the bank of unfair treatment. What are your thoughts on this statement?
Well, I don't have personal thoughts about that. Paul Romer is a great economist. He's very well known for his contribution in macroeconomics and growth. He actually published a couple of op-eds after that, and his statements are very clear after he resigned from the World Bank. And the bank has issued a statement about the integrity of the data systems in the bank at large. And in the specific case of Chile, there is going to be an investigation about the case. So this is what I can refer you to as well, the good statements and references that came out from the World Bank related to this. They are available online. The Doing Business report remains a very important tool to improve the access of small and medium enterprises to better services and to have better regulations by government. And we have seen very good progress by many countries around the world when they apply good reforms based on this report, the kind of improvement that they have seen in their business environment. However, we don't need to exaggerate the role of this Doing Business report. It is limited to some matters, and as being always specified in this report, it's about the regulatory environment and procedure affecting local or domestically owned small and medium enterprises. It's not an assessment about the investment climate at large. It doesn't address matters related to political economy. So we need to take this report as it stands and as it measures, not to take it beyond its scope.
Thank you very much for the interview.
Thank you so much. It's great having you.